Welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be looking at gear refining, just like I promised you guys. Now, what is refining? Basically, refining is a way of improving any piece of gear. Basically, to refine any piece of gear, you just go over to your forge and find the refine button on top and click on the refine and you've refined a particular piece of gear. Or you could go over to your general which you've assigned that particular piece of gear and click on the refine button. Easy, right? Now don't do this if you don't have a focus while you refine any piece of gear. Okay, to refine any piece of gear you have to have a focus. And if you know watched my previous video on the forge and on how to craft good your gears, then I suggest you go back and watch the previous video on the forge. Also, do not forget to click on the like button and on the subscribe button if you find this video helpful. Also, drop your comments on the comment section and your suggestion. Who knows, maybe I'll be making a video for you on that. Now that's the easy part. The hard part is trying to refine for a particular purpose or having a focus while you refine. Now I'm just trying to say that there are things you have to consider before you refine a particular piece of gear. If not, you'll be wasting those precious refining stones. Now there are two things to consider while refining a particular piece of gear. The number one thing is the type of gear you're refining. You don't go about refining the lower level gears like the edge ring or the edge crossbow. These are lower piece of gears. You just have to save those materials and refining stones for when you're able to craft the higher level gears like the Archimedean gears. Okay, now another thing to consider is the type of general you are to assign that piece of gear. Now each general in this game are basically good for a particular thing, so the type of general depends on the type of refining you're gonna do. Okay, and for the purpose you want to use that general for, we also determine how you refine, whether you want to use the general for PvP, for resource gathering, ground troop attack, range troop, boss killing. You have to learn how best to refine and improve their attributes, which has about 1 to 25% as limit. Unfortunately, this is a low level forge and we're not able to craft a piece of gear. I wish I could be doing this with a high level forge, but the same principle applies for both high level forge and higher level gear equipment. Now without wasting your time, let's see the refine. Just explain so a few things. You get 4 attributes when you refine any particular piece of gear. Now, by the right of my screen is the lock option, which allows you to lock down when you get a desired attribute at a good percentage. Now the yellow ones is the current percentage of the attributes, and the ones are in white color by the left is the percentage limits of that particular piece of gear, which is why you should refine higher piece of gear like the Archimedean piece of gears. Now when you refine, you're gonna see the original attributes and the new attributes, and you click on the confirm to keep the newly refined attributes. Now let's go over to PvP refinement. Now for PvP refinement, priority depends on the type of troop you're using to launch your attack. If you're using a ranged troop to launch your attack, then you probably prioritize attack over HP and defense, while if you're using a ground troop for your PvP, then prioritize HP and defense over attack. Now because I'm using this general Minamoto for my ranged troop attack, you could see that the gear I attached on my weapon is the bow, the king's bow. Now if it were to be a ground troop attack, then I might be looking at the axe for my weapons. So priority depends on the type of troop you're using. So depending on the type of troop, depending on the type of gear you are assigned to that particular general. So For PvP refinement, it's always good to get decent refines on your weapon and on the ring, because this is where you see the mounted troop attack or the ranged troop attack. That's where you get your attacks. You get your attack attributes from your ring and your weapons. You can see the weapon here: range troop attack, almost three set of range troop attack, then the mounted troop attack at the last button. So you get decent refines on your first and second, then you move over to the your helmet and your leg armor. This is where you find your HP, the helmet and the leg armor. You get your HP from there. You get decent refines on your first and second. Then before you could go over to the chest and the boots. Chest and the boots is where you find the defense. You can see the attributes already, the range troop defense and ground troop there. But we've now started refining. I'll still go over to show you guys the refining process at the very last end of the video, so you can see how the refining process goes. So once you get a decent refines on your first and second, you move out to the next gear. Then later on you could come back to do the third and the fourth refines on all of the gears you've assigned to the general. Now let's look at refining for a boss killer. For a boss killer, you'll probably be looking at a general that is good at mounted troop attack. You can see here the general I'm using, Legion, is very good at mounted troop attack at 35%. And because we're using a mounted troop attack, you can see the gear set I've equipped on my weapon is a king spear. So the spear is where you find your mounted troop attack. So you start from your attack to prioritize for your boss killer. The attack is where you refine it on your weapons. The king spear, see the refining attributes. You can see the mounted troop attack at 40.7 already, and other siege machine attack at a very good percentage here. On my first and second refines already. Then you move over to your helmet and your leg armor, because that's where you get your HP. You get the HP from the helmet and the leg armor. Your helmet and leg armor is where you find the HP. Then on the chest and on the boot, sorry, your leg armor is here. It's where you get the HP. You can see the multitude HP already. Then on the chest and the boot is where you find the defense. So you get your defense from your chest and your boots gears. Now be super picky with your first and your second refines. Once you get your first and second refines done, then you could come back to do your the third and the fourth on any piece of the gear. So you start from your weapons first, then you move over to your helmet and your leg to get the HP. Then lastly, you move over to your chest and your boot to get your defense for a boss killer. Now let's look at refining for a Guardra. For a Guardra, like a general that you want to use for gathering of resources, and your resource ties like Queen Jindiok, you take any high level percentage of resource gathering attribute that shows up when you refine. Now you could start with your weapon when you refine, then you keep any high level percentage of gathering. You see, I've not even started refining anything on this Jindiok. I've not even gotten any high level percentage of any resource gathering. So when you refine, you keep any high percentage of resource gathering that pops up. You can see we have stone gathering speed. We're not gonna keep that. It's too low. It's too low. So you keep any higher percentage of what you get. I'm gonna still show you guys at the end of the video how the way you refine. So keep any high level percentage you see from your weapons. Then you go over to your head armor, and keep refining. Any high level resource gathering you see, you lock it down for your first and second attributes. Then you could come back to do your third and fourth refines on each of the piece of the gears. Okay, now next is on dragon refine. Unfortunately we don't have dragon in these accounts, but it still doesn't matter. For your dragon refines, priority depends on the type of troops. Depends on the type of troops the dragon will be using to support. Same process and advice as the normal gear refines, Dragon has the option of either your badge or your gem to refine. I would generally suggest you use the gem to refine, as badges are needed to upgrade your Dragon gears to Aries. So, and to unlock your wonder. So gems are mostly easy to obtain. So you just have to save up those badges for better thing and refine with your gems for your dragon refines. It's the same process goes for your dragon refines. So you just prioritize your first and second, and the fourth and the third you can go back to do them later. Okay, let's go over to the actual refining process. Oh, I just find out that I'm kind of low on gold, so let's go and get gold first, then we'll get over to the refining process. Yeah, I suggest if you're a new player, you should take your your Vikings challenge seriously in order to get enough gold for your refining and also for other stuffs in this game. Alright, let's go over to my boss killer and demonstrate what I mean by all the things I've been saying to you guys, the first and the second refines and the priority. Remember, once you lock down any piece of attributes, you start to refine with your gold. Start refining with the gold. Okay, let me see if I could get a decent refine on my king spear for my boss killer. I'm gonna ask you guys to be super patient because this thing could take a really long time. So you have to have a patience when you're refining. You have to have the patience, sorry, to get a very decent refine on any piece of gear. It doesn't come that easy. It takes a hard and a long time before you could get any decent percentage. That's where the made this game quite hard. So you have to you have to calm down and take the time to refine your gears. One of them is a keeper. So we keep refining till we get decent attributes on this piece of gear. So we are looking at to get around 17.5. We want to looking at to get about 14.5 or 14, 13. Then you could keep the percentage. Yeah. You can see multi-troop attack 11.3. That's a very tempting percentage, but we're not keeping it. We're not keeping it. We're not keeping it. 10.9. Nope. 11.4. Very tempting. Nope. Let's say this could take a real lot of time, so you have to have the patience in order to get a good decent refine. Oh, 11.2 siege machine attack, but we're not looking at the siege because this is for mounted troop, so we're not keeping that. Let's pray we get lucky and get a decent refine. Nothing good. Wow, it's a pretty long process, so we have to take all the time it needs to get a pretty decent refine. Nope. That's not what we're looking for. And if I look at this, mounted troop attack plus 258. It's not a keeper. Let's check again. You can see that 13.6% on food gathering speed. Wow, and look at there, 14.7 mounted troop attack. And that's a keeper. That's a keeper. We'll confirm that and we'll lock that down. Then we'll start to refine with gems. Okay, I'm gonna go over to get more gems now. Then we'll come back for this refining, for the second refine. That's our first refine. You could see we've gotten a pretty decent refine on mounted troop attack on our first attributes. Now on our first refine. Now we're looking at the second refine, third and fourth will come back later. So you can see I'm very picky with my first refine. I got 14.7 and that's an amazing percentage for this piece of gear. Now we're looking at the second refine. So I'm gonna be doing that now. And as you can see, I've started to refine with the gems. So you should know that you have to have a very good a very good amount of gems and your gold and the refining stones before you start refining any piece of gear. Now once you're low on gems, you could just try and get a decent refine on your first and second, then you could go over, because once you start to do the third and fourth, the gems amount will start to go up, and it could be pretty demanding of gems. It could eat away all your gems, so you should be quite cautious when you do all this refine. All right, now is this my second refine? Okay, and another 14.7 on mounted troop attack. On mounted troop attack. That's already locked down. And I'm seeing a 13.2 in siege machine attack. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep that. Now I've gotten pretty decent on my mounted troop attack and on my siege machine attack. On siege on my first and second refine on this weapon. I think I'm okay with that. Then I'm going over to my helmet to get a pretty decent one on my HP. So I'm going over to the helmet. So I'm looking at getting anything on HP. So anything on HP is a keeper for me, for my helmet and on my leg armor. Nope. None of them is a keeper. So we're going again. No, those are pretty poor stats. Now remember the order of priority. First and second refine. Be super picky on the percentage. Once you get a good percentage on the on HP, on mounted troop HP, then it's a keeper. Nope. Oh, 11.4 on siege machine HP, but we're not looking at siege. We're looking at mounted troop. Mounted troop. This could take a pretty long time, so we have to be super patient to get a decent refine on this one. Oh, look at that, mounted to HP 11.6. 11.6. Very tempting. Very tempting. Oh, very tempting. All right. Very tempting. Very tempting. As you can see, the amount of gold is already going down. So refining is not an easy process. It takes a lot of your resources, your golds and your gems. So you have to be super picky with what you do. All right. I'm gonna keep that 11.6 for now while I find the other refine. Now that's a decent multitude to HP, even though it's not a percentage, but you could see it's a 68.681 on the general stats. So I think that's a keeper for me. I'm gonna lock that down as my second refine. As you can see, the more I lock down this refine, the more the amount of gem I'm gonna use to refine the fourth and the second goes up. So you have to be super picky on these things, because when you start to refine for your fourth and the third and the fourth, then you start to use your gems. It could go a little higher on your gems, so you have to be super picky once you're refining any piece of gear. And that's it all for any piece of gear. Now remember what we said in the beginning. Depending on the genre you're using and on the gear you're refining, you have to place priority and focus. Get your first and second refining decent, then you could come back later to do the fourth and the third and the fourth. Now you understand the priorities when you're doing your refining for any piece of general, whether it's gathering, your boss killing, your PvP, your dragon refines. It's basically the same process when you're doing your refining. Now thanks for staying tuned in the channel. To all the new subscribers, I'm very happy having you guys on my channel. So you just stay tuned and watch out for when I drop new videos. And for my incoming subscribers, do not forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you guys, and I'll be seeing you guys later. Stay safe, refine properly, have spirit of in the spirit of the game, have the spirit of sportsmanship. Play safe. Thank you guys.